The email landed like a hammer, and I stared until the words blurred, and Ethan Cole said, "They pulled the plug after 2 years." The clock ticked too loud, and the room felt colder than the rain outside. My throat was sandpaper, and I whispered to no one, "We did everything right." A notification ping echoed like a verdict, and my palms went damp. Maya Brooks stepped in with careful eyes, and Maya said, "Talk to me before you spiral." I tried to steady my breath, but it rattled like a loose vent. The skyline smeared behind wet glass, as if the city was shrugging us off. A slow anger rose, thin and metallic, and I fought it down. Ethan Cole said, "If they leave, others will follow, and payroll will snap." Maya crossed the room, quiet as a nurse, and she set a mug beside my keyboard. The ceramic clicked, and the sound was too honest. Shame crawled up my neck, and I pictured every late night, every pitch, every promise. Ethan Cole said, "We built their backbone, and now they cut us out." The cursor blinked like a taunt, and thunder rolled somewhere beyond the towers. I forced my shoulders back, though they wanted to fold. Maya said, "Breathe first, fight next, and call them only when you're steady." The office emptied like a theater after a bad play, and chairs stood at odd angles in the hush. Ethan Cole said, "We scaled for them, and now the weight is on me." The rain mellowed, but a leak dripped near the window and scored the room in beats. Maya Brooks perched on the edge of the desk, and Maya said, "We call, we ask why, and we learn what they fear." I rubbed my temples until sparks danced in the blur. The budget spreadsheet glared like a harsh noon, and every red cell felt personal. Ethan Cole said, "Cash runway shrinks to months if others spook." Maya held my stare as if she could pin me to the present. The air smelled of coffee and whiteboard ink and a little panic. Ethan Cole said, "I cannot show the team this storm without a map." Maya said, "Then write one before dawn, and I'll drive the first mile." The drip hit the bucket, and I counted to 5 as if the rhythm could anchor me. I opened a fresh doc and typed 3 silent words, and the words were our north. We hid in the break room that smelled of citrus cleaner and burnt toast, and the vending machine hummed like a distant generator. Ethan Cole said, "I keep replaying the last meeting, frame by frame." Maya Brooks cracked a granola bar and slid half my way. Maya said, "They choose safety, not loyalty, and that is not immoral." I nodded, and the fluorescent buzz filled the pauses like a critic. Ethan Cole said, "If we pivot too fast, we lose ourselves." Maya said, "If we freeze, we lose everything else." The microwave clock blinked 12 like a joke that never lands. I remembered the launch day when the team cheered under paper confetti and cheap pizza grease stained our sleeves. Ethan Cole said, "What do we still do better than anyone?" Maya pressed her lips thin, then smiled. Maya said, "Speed, empathy, and honest data." The words steadied me like a handrail in a dark stairwell. My sister called as the clouds broke and left a smear of moonlight over the avenue. Olivia Cole said, "You keep chasing cliffs and calling them views." Her voice carried the ache of old holidays and the sting of truth. Ethan Cole said, "I am not reckless. I am cornered, and I am learning." She breathed out, and it sounded like a door settling. Olivia Cole said, "You could take a safe job and sleep again." I watched the cursor blink on the empty slide titled Plan B. Ethan Cole said, "Safety dulls the blade I need right now." A bus hissed outside, and the tail lights dragged red across the glass. Olivia Cole said, "Then prove this is not pride with a new customer by quarter." I stood up straighter as if she could see the angle of my spine. Ethan Cole said, "I will send you the deck when it sings." The team channel pinged without words, and footsteps paused beyond the door as if the hallway held its breath. Noah Kim lingered near the glass, pretending to check the printer queue. Ethan Cole said, "You can come in if you want to ask." He slid in with careful respect, and Noah Kim said, "Are we safe for 2 months if nothing changes?" I weighed the answer like a judge at midnight. Ethan Cole said, We are safe for a window, and I intend to widen it. His shoulders eased one notch, and his eyes steadied. I showed him a sketch of a news service we had teased for too long. Noah, Kim said, if we ship this lean and honest, I can draft the onboarding flow tonight. Hope stirred like a pilot light catching. Ethan Cole said, do it, and ask Maya to review before you push. He nodded once, and left the door open, and the room felt less narrow. Ethan Cole remembered the first cramped apartment where his dream began, the walls yellowed with age, and the floor lined with second-hand cables. Ethan Cole said, I thought a laptop and grit could carve me a kingdom. He saw himself hauling boxes of used monitors upstairs one by one, each step a test of faith. The air had smelled of dust and burnt coffee, but it was the scent of hunger and hope. Maya Brooks sat on a milk crate, scribbling numbers on the back of envelopes. Maya said, if we build fast enough, maybe we outrun the doubt. Ethan smiled at how naive he was, chasing a vision that burned hotter than reason. The nights were endless, code stitched under a single lamp that hummed like a tired insect. Ethan Cole said, failure was always one bill away, but so was glory. He stared at the ceiling of memory, and saw water stains like maps of places he could not yet reach. Maya laughed softly then, and Ethan held that echo as proof that belief once lived in shadows. The cafe smelled of espresso and rain, and the hum of conversation carried the energy of ambition. Mr. Grant Lewis leaned forward, silver hair glinting under pendant light, and Grant Lewis said, vision is cheap without endurance. Ethan Cole stirred his black coffee, hands trembling just enough to betray the stakes. Grant Lewis said, you must know the difference between a detour and defeat. Ethan nodded, swallowing pride with bitterness of caffeine. Grant Lewis said, your idea is sound, but you build with your heart more than your head. Ethan Cole said, I thought heart was the currency that mattered most. Grant's smile was thin, seasoned with decades of scars. Grant Lewis said, heart gets you started, but systems keep you alive. Outside, thunder rattled the window panes, and Ethan imagined every storm was a lesson waiting in disguise. He left the cafe with Grant's words etched deeper than any balance sheet. The investor's boardroom gleamed with steel and glass, the table long enough to echo every word. Evelyn Ross adjusted her blazer, and Evelyn Ross said, you convinced me once, but conviction fades when numbers crack. Ethan Cole tightened his tie, though it bit his throat. Evelyn Ross said, you sold me passion, now sell me proof. He clicked the remote, slides filling the room with projections painted in fragile optimism. Ethan Cole said, we can rebound, because what we offer is not just service but trust. Evelyn tilted her head, tapping her pen against the ledger like a drum of judgment. Evelyn Ross said, trust is an expensive promise. Silence held until the projector hummed louder than his pulse. Ethan Cole whispered to himself, I won't let this be the chapter they close me in. At dinner, Olivia Cole swirled her wine glass slowly, her eyes sharp with worry. Olivia Cole said, you chase storms with no umbrella. Ethan Cole said, I chase because I believe the sun follows. She shook her head, fork untouched, candlelight flickering against her furrowed brow. Olivia Cole said, belief does not pay rent, Ethan. The restaurant clattered with laughter from other tables, and each laugh stabbed his ribs. Ethan Cole said, if I stop now, I will never know what we could have built. Olivia sighed, her voice dropping softer. Olivia Cole said, then promise me you'll not drown dragging others with you. Ethan stared at the candle flame, steady and fragile, and felt its warning. Sleep was a foreign country as Ethan Cole lay staring at the ceiling shadows. The hum of the city leaked through cracked blinds like whispers of failure. He scrolled old emails on his phone, every promise heavy as stone. Ethan Cole said, I built this house on sand and dream. He tossed the phone aside and pressed palms against his eyes until sparks danced. The silence was thicker than walls, and regret gnawed at the corners of his mind. Ethan remembered Maya Brooks' words, and Maya had said, breathe first, fight next. He whispered them aloud like a prayer. Ethan Cole said, "Tomorrow I will rise with fire, not fear." The night held him in its jaws, but a flicker of defiance beat inside his chest. Sleep never came, but resolve did. The rival firm's glossy billboard rose over the freeway like a taunt, bold letters spelling out the campaign. Ethan Cole had pitched first. Ethan Cole said, "They stole it clean, dressed it up, and claimed the crown." Cars whooshed below, indifferent to the theft that bled his gut. The antagonist, Victor Hayes, smirked in the press release photo on Ethan's phone, his suit sharp and grin sharper. Ethan Cole said, "He's not just taking clients, he's gutting my name." The ache pressed into his ribs, but he stood taller anyway. Maya Brooks stood beside him, raincoat damp, jaw tight. Maya said, "They only win if you stop fighting." The city smelled of wet asphalt and hot metal, and Ethan knew every cent was a dare. He clenched his fists until his knuckles stung, vowing he would not fade quietly into shadows. In a polished hotel bar, the betrayer leaned close to Victor Hayes, their voices muffled under jazz and clinking glasses. Daniel Ward said, "He doesn't see it coming, and he never will." Victor Hayes replied, "Then let him drown in the storm he started." Ethan Cole's former friend raised a toast, greed bright in his eyes. Daniel Ward said, "I walked with him long enough to know every crack." Their laughter cut sharp, like glass grinding against stone. A waitress passed, and Daniel's smile slid back into polite charm, but the mask was thin. The betrayal burned brighter than the whiskey they shared, an alliance forged not by loyalty, but hunger. In that corner booth, trust died without ceremony. Ethan Cole paced the small glass office as the deal evaporated over a crackling speakerphone. Ethan Cole said, "You're pulling out too, after everything we delivered." The client's cold tone answered, "We cannot risk association after the headlines." His gut twisted as if the floorboards bent beneath him. The cursor on the financial sheet bled red, line after line collapsing into deficit. Maya Brooks entered with quick steps, eyes scanning the storm across his face. Maya said, "Talk to me." Ethan clenched his fists, fighting to steady his voice. Ethan Cole said, "They're running, and I cannot hold the tide alone." The silence after the call pressed like an iron weight, and the office air grew thinner. He leaned against the desk, chest tight, as though gravity doubled inside the walls. They sat across the cluttered table, tension stacked higher than the files between them. Maya Brooks said, "You're bleeding out but still standing. That counts." Ethan Cole shook his head slowly, jaw tight. "Ethan Cole," said standing, "is not enough if the ground vanishes beneath me." Rain streaked the window, distorting city lights like ghosts. Maya's voice softened but carried weight. Maya said, "Then we fight, piece by piece, client by client." He searched her eyes for certainty, and found fire instead. Ethan Cole said, "I feel the cracks widening every hour." Maya leaned forward, her hand flat on the table, like an anchor. Maya said, "Then we stop the cracks, or we fall filling them." The words wrapped around him like armor he had forgotten he wore. Noah Kim sat silent at the edge of the bullpen, headphones idle around his neck, pretending to debug code as voices rose behind glass. He watched Ethan Cole argue with unseen clients, hands cutting sharp gestures. "Noah," Kim said softly to himself. "He's carrying weight too heavy for one." He saved the unfinished workflow draft, every keystroke hesitant. The hum of machines filled the air, yet the silence beneath it screamed. Ethan Cole emerged, face pale, shoulders rigid, eyes refusing contact. Noah Kim straightened as if words might help, but he stayed silent, absorbing the fracture through presence alone. The weight of being a witness was its own kind of burden, unspoken yet carved deep. The team's foundation trembled, though no one dared voice the quake. Ethan Cole found the forwarded email on his screen, its subject line sharp as a blade. Daniel Ward had signed a contract with Victor Hayes, and the ink was still wet. Ethan Cole said, "He was with me from the start, and now he cuts me open. His chest burned with betrayal deeper than financial loss. Maya Brooks rushed in, her eyes scanning the document. Maya said, "Daniel sold everything we built together." The weight of years spent side by side collapsed in a breath. Ethan Cole whispered, "Trust is the only currency I never budgeted for." The silence was so loud it hollowed the room. He slammed the laptop shut, a thunderclap in miniature, and the echoes felt final. Ethan stormed into the dim office, Daniel Ward already waiting, arms crossed like a wall. Ethan Cole said, "Tell me it's not true." Daniel smirked, his eyes sharp with guilt hidden under arrogance. Daniel Ward said, "I chose survival over loyalty, and survival pays better." Ethan's voice cracked as he stepped closer. Ethan Cole said, "You were my brother in this fight." Daniel's tone hardened, every word dripping coal. Daniel Ward said, "Brothers don't pay rent, contracts do." The words hit harder than fists. Ethan's jaw locked, rage boiling into silence. Victor Hayes appeared on the screen during a press briefing, flashing a grin like a dagger. Victor Hayes said, "Innovation is ours now, and trust follows winners." Ethan Cole watched from his phone, bile in his throat. Maya Brooks clenched her fists, her voice sharp. Maya said, "He stole your voice," and Daniel handed him the script. Ethan Cole whispered, "They don't just want my clients, they want my name erased." The newsroom applauded in the background of the stream, every clap a nail driven into pride. Ethan's hands shook, but his spine stiffened with new defiance. The mentor's office smelled of books and old leather, dimly lit by a single desk lamp. Grant Lewis leaned forward, lines of experience etched across his face. Grant Lewis said, "Betrayal is fire. It burns away illusions." Ethan Cole dropped into the chair, shoulders slumped. Ethan Cole said, "I don't know if I have enough left to fight." Grant's voice was stern but steady. Grant Lewis said, "Fight with what's left, and you'll find more than you knew." Ethan inhaled, the words heavy yet filling, like iron forged in flame. The silence turned into resolve. At the dim cafe corner, Sarah Lynn raised her brow as Ethan recounted the betrayal. Sarah Lynn said, "If you fight fire with fire, you lose more than flames." Ethan Cole pressed his hands together, frustration burning in his eyes. Ethan Cole said, "Integrity feels like a weakness when the wolves close in." Sarah leaned closer, her voice calm but unyielding. Sarah Lynn said, "Integrity is the only shield that does not break." The rain tapped softly outside, like an answer he did not want to hear but needed. Ethan's chest rose, steadied, and he whispered, "Then I'll fight with steel, not ash." Evelyn Ross stood at the head of the long table, her gaze sharp as a blade. Evelyn Ross said, "One more chance, Ethan. Prove you can rise or I walk." Ethan Cole's pulse thundered in his ears. He swallowed the fear like bitter glass and stood straighter. Ethan Cole said, "Give me the floor, and I will show you why we matter." The team sat in silence, every eye a weight on his shoulders. Maya Brooks leaned forward, her eyes steady as a compass. Maya said, "He won't falter this time." Ethan drew a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. He opened a laptop, the first slide glowing with fragile hope. Evelyn folded her arms, waiting, and the silence was a test harder than any words. Ethan Cole whispered inside his chest, "This is the line where I either break or burn brighter." The night before the pitch, Ethan sat in his apartment, the glow of his monitor painting his face in pale blue. Ethan Cole said, "Am I enough to carry this weight?" His fingers hovered above the keys, paralyzed by ghosts of failure. Maya Brooks called from the kitchen, her voice firm but warm. Maya said, "Doubt doesn't build, it only erodes, right as if you've already won." Ethan leaned back, his body trembling with exhaustion. He typed a single line, erased it, then typed again. Ethan Cole said, "The only thing I own that no one can steal is my fire." The night outside rumbled with passing trains, each one a heartbeat he borrowed. He stayed until dawn, words spilling like sparks into slides, his chest lighter with every stroke. The pitch room was a theater of pressure, every chair filled with investors whose pens tapped like hammers. Ethan Cole's slides glowed behind him, each word a lifeline. Ethan Cole said, "We do not sell data. We sell trust that outlives numbers." His voice cracked, then steadied like steel tempered in fire. Evelyn Ross watched him with narrowed eyes, searching for weakness. Ethan stepped closer to the table, hands open, voice rising. Ethan Cole said, "This company is not a risk. It is the future they'll wish they joined sooner." The silence that followed was vast, broken only by the hum of the projector. Ethan's chest heaved as if he had poured every ounce of himself into the room. Victor Hayes slipped into the room uninvited, his polished shoes echoing like daggers on marble. Victor Hayes said, "Why invest in a sinking ship when I offer a fleet?" The investors stirred, whispers like dry leaves. Ethan Cole's heart clenched, but he stepped forward. Ethan Cole said, "A fleet without integrity will sink in calm waters." Victor smirked, dismissive, but Ethan's voice cut sharper. Ethan Cole said, "We are not polished lies, we are resilient truth." Evelyn Ross's pen stilled, her eyes flicking between predator and fighter. The room's air grew thick with tension, the duel more than business, it was survival. The final words hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. Ethan Cole said, "I cannot promise an easy road, but I promise one worth walking." His voice carried weight heavier than steel, yet light enough to lift hearts. Maya Brooks smiled faintly, her eyes wet with pride. Evelyn Ross leaned back, her lips curling into the hint of a smile. Evelyn Ross said, "You've earned another chance." Ethan's chest cracked open with relief, though his face stayed steady. Victor Hayes turned away, his smirk dissolving into silence. Ethan Cole whispered inside, "I did not just survive, I claimed my fire back." The applause began soft, then swelled, filling the room like redemption given shape. The office felt alive again as new inquiries poured into the inbox, each subject line a spark. Ethan Cole said, "They're coming back. Not because we begged, but because we proved we're unshaken." His voice carried a steady fire. Maya Brooks scrolled through the list, her lips curling into a grin. Maya said, "These are companies that once ignored us." The hum of laptops filled the air like music. Noah Kim leaned over with wide eyes. "Noah," Kim said, "one of them wants a trial by next week." Ethan clenched his jaw, not from fear but resolve. Ethan Cole said, "Then we show them a leaner, sharper us." The room buzzed with focused energy, the kind that came only after walking through fire and surviving. In the conference room, Maya Brooks spread out the new client roadmap across the table. Maya said, "We can't just patch holes, we must build bridges wider than before." Ethan Cole nodded, eyes sharp. Ethan Cole said, "You're leading this rollout, not me." She blinked, startled, then her lips tightened into determination. Maya said, "Then I'll lead it stronger than anyone expects." The team looked to her, their trust clear. Ethan leaned back, pride swelling in his chest. Ethan Cole said, "This is your time to claim the floor." For the first time, Maya saw herself not just as support but as a leader. The bullpen hummed as Noah Kim adjusted wireframes on his monitor, fingers flying with new confidence. Ethan Cole stopped behind him, watching quietly. Ethan Cole said, "You've grown into this faster than I imagined." Noah's cheeks flushed, but his voice was steady. "Noah," Kim said, "I just needed to be trusted with more." The monitor's glow lit his determined face, every click a step into responsibility. Ethan Cole said, "Your work is the backbone of what we're building now." Noah straightened his shoulders, feeling weight, but also pride. The silent observer was silent no more, his craft finally recognized. Olivia Cole leaned against the office doorframe, her expression softer than before. Olivia Cole said, "I thought you were burning yourself into ash, but I see fire tempered into steel." Ethan Cole chuckled faintly, rubbing the back of his neck. Ethan Cole said, "I'm still scarred, but scars remind me what I endured." She sighed, crossing her arms with quiet pride. Olivia Cole said, I may not understand this path, but I respect the strength it forged. Ethan's chest loosened, the tension of doubt melting into relief. For the first time, her skepticism had shifted into admiration. Grant Lewis stood by the window, the city glowing behind him like a map of battles fought and won. Grant Lewis said, You've walked through betrayal, fear, and fire. Yet here you stand. Ethan Cole approached, his posture taller now. Ethan Cole said, I thought strength was never breaking, but I learned it's about mending. The mentor nodded slowly, pride flickering in his tired eyes. Grant Lewis said, You have earned scars that will remind you never to forget your own grit. Ethan's gaze swept across the city, the horizon no longer distant, but reachable. The contract slid across the polished table, a new beginning signed in ink. Evelyn Ross said, This is the partnership we should have had from the start. Ethan Cole exhaled, the weight lifting like fog at dawn. Ethan Cole said, We didn't just survive, we sharpened ourselves against every storm. The investors nodded, their faith rekindled. Maya Brooks leaned close, her voice a whisper, but filled with triumph. Maya said, This is the ground we build on. The room pulsed with possibility, not fear. Ethan's hand trembled slightly as he shook Evelyn's, but the tremor was relief, not doubt. Sarah Lynn leaned back in her chair, arms folded with calm satisfaction. Sarah Lynn said, You fought with integrity when it would have been easier to break. Ethan Cole lowered his gaze, humble. Ethan Cole said, I almost lost myself, but steel only hardens under pressure. Sarah's lips curled into a knowing smile. Sarah Lynn said, The world is louder with wolves, but you taught them a man can stand without losing his soul. Ethan's chest rose, the words wrapping around him like armor. The cafe hummed around them, yet their corner felt like a sanctuary. The news ticker scrolled Victor Hayes' downfall, headlines flashing words like investigation and collapse. Ethan Cole stared at the screen in silence. Maya Brooks said, He built on lies, and lies never hold. Ethan shook his head slowly. Ethan Cole said, I don't need to celebrate his fall, I only need to honor our rise. The room was still, but the hum of screens buzzed with justice. For the first time, Ethan felt not anger, but peace. Maya's hand rested briefly on his shoulder, steady as truth. Ethan Cole stood alone at the rooftop, the city skyline blazing with neon and stars. Ethan Cole said, The road nearly broke me, but I learned even broken stone can pave new paths. The wind whipped his shirt, but he stood tall. Olivia Cole appeared beside him, her voice quiet. Olivia Cole said, You didn't just fight, you changed. He looked at her, gratitude softening his eyes. Ethan Cole said, And I found family not only in blood, but in those who never left my side. The city's glow reflected in both their eyes, futures written across horizons. The final presentation room emptied, leaving Ethan Cole alone with the echoes of applause. He closed the laptop, exhaling steady. Ethan Cole said, I thought I lost my future, but I gained my strength. His reflection in the glass wall looked older, scarred, but alive. He pressed his palm against the cool surface, feeling the weight of scars as proof of victory. Ethan Cole whispered, This is not the end. It's the start of a legacy. The lights dimmed, leaving only his silhouette against the glowing city, unbroken and unbowed.